So, lastly, we have 1985, The Staff. It's an interesting movie. Basically, this mysterious substance from the earth is found by some miners, and they start marketing it. It apparently tastes good. They market it as like a dessert type treat. And it has some dangerous properties. It seems to be alive, and this one corporate espionage guy gets hired by an ice cream company to sort of look into this, like, hey, this stuff is stealing, money from us, so let's figure out where this came from. And so it just follows this somewhat ridiculous espionage guy as he tries to discover the identity and what's behind the stuff. I'll be honest, I find the movie, it's sometimes a bit over the top, especially toward the end with God, what's the guy's name? Um Paul Sorvino's character, who plays sort of like this like disgraced right wing military guy. He's a bit much, but I enjoy pretty much most of the rest of the movie. So some of the scenes, some of them are, like I said, they're a bit much, but I like the characters here. The plot sort of all over the place. They like go from Illinois to Georgia just to figure out hey, where's the stuff coming from? And there's like little mystery involved. So I know I personally enjoy the movie, but I can imagine that some people may not have gotten as much out of it as myself. What did you think, Chucky?
Hmm. I've seen this movie once before, and the first time that I watched it, I was kind of like, it's didn't really do anything for me. Wasn't necessarily bad, just didn't do anything. And so when I watched it again, I watched it last night. I got like 20 seconds in, and immediately I had to pause and rewind what I had just watched because it's so ridiculous. It starts off with this guy who finds this like pulsating white liquid, and not only does he stick his hand in it, he has no reservations about tasting it. I mean, wouldn't you think this pulsating liquid be somewhat dangerous? I mean, this guy just goes in like it's fucking ice cream. I was just like, who does that? Who in their right mind would do that? So it got off to such a ridiculous start. The movie's okay. It's got a lot of similarities to the Blob, obviously. I know this was made a little bit before the Blob remake, but you can draw a lot of similarities in a lot of different ways. Not just from the liquid type stuff itself, but also, they bring in kind of like the whole military science type aspect to it. I don't know, but there's a few decent gruesome moments in it, but overall, I didn't really enjoy the characters or anything. There's some very noticeable green screens in the movie as well, which just, sometimes that's okay, and they don't go overboard with it here, but I just caught it in a number of different scenes, and it just stood out too much for me. If you grew up watching this movie, I can see why you'd have some attachment to it, or if you just love everything from the 80s, you're probably going to have a decent time with it, but yeah, it's just not consistently good for me.
Have you seen many other Larry Cohen movies out of interest?
I have. Now, that's one thing I meant to look up before, and I forgot to do it because I am familiar. Yeah, off the top of my head, he wrote the Maniac Cop movies, so obviously I like the Maniac Cop movies. Off the top of my head, I knew he did the It's Alive movies, or at least one or two of them. Yeah, he's okay. I have no problems with anything he's really done, but I wouldn't say outside of the Maniac Cop series there's a whole lot that I love.
Yeah, I think this movie is somewhat interesting because it's obviously somewhat a satirical type movie, but it's sort of going after consumerism. Um, much like actually RoboCop, I like the little commercials we see in this movie. you know, like can't get enough of the stuff. It's just I don't know, it sort of cracked me up every time one of those commercials came on because in a society when people just blindly buying the new fad thing, you know, like there's like a sort of like a ice cream stand, only it's just stuff and it's just ridiculous. But in a consumeristic society like this, it makes sense. So I enjoyed it for that aspect, sort of going after that type of thing, and then of course bringing in the FDA. How did this get approved? And oh hey, the documents and files have gone missing. That's interesting. Um, so I mean, if you look past some like the overly ridiculous, silly stuff, I think the movie has a little more to offer. But even so, I think the movie as a whole, I think it's pretty good. I think the ending's a bit iffy, mainly because I don't really like the military character. I don't really think that went anywhere, and the idea that this right wing radio host can somehow change the minds of all these people who are eating this tafaradi just strikes me as like unbelievable. And I like how that's one of my main complaints about the movie. But otherwise, I think it's decently enjoyable. And the special effects, green screens aside, I sort of did like that one scene in the hotel in which, much like actually Nightmare on Elm Street, it's the blob type thing is crawling up the wall, consuming somebody, and I thought it was pretty decent. Plus, I guess I also have to say, again, he's over the top. I actually really like the main character here. His ridiculous southern accent just consistently cracked me up. You know why they call me Mo?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wish we had seen more of Chocolate Chip Charlie. He was one of the OPs in this movie.
Yeah. Well, he had one of the few gruesome deaths or
Yes.
gruesome moments in the movie that I was referring to earlier. So, from a cheesy 80s horror movie aspect, those few scenes can do something for you, but they're kind of still few and far between for me to really make the movie as a whole all that enjoyable.
Yeah, and I'll say this: I actually liked this movie more the first time I saw it than I did this time. No, I still think it's a good movie. Don't get me wrong, but I did feel like a slight decrease in enjoyment. So I sort of wonder, like let's say 3 or 4 years down the line, if I watch this again, if I'm going to enjoy it even as much as I did just a few days ago. So I'm going to throw this movie a 7.5 out of 10, and I've had to think about this for a bit, and I'm probably going to round that down to a 7 out of 10. But I do think the movie's just a bit above average. It's just not it's not an amazing movie, but I do think the movie has a decent amount to offer. I mean, I had a fun time. I really like the commercials here, the little jingle about the stuff, that scene where the kid goes wild in the grocery store. That's
Yeah.
again, this is so ridiculous, but it just cracked me up. Like they should have stopped that guy, that kid, like about 3 minutes early.
I also think that scene happened way too early in the movie. Like, he within a few minutes of the movie starting, he's convinced there's something wrong with this, and then he goes in with basically with the intention of just creating chaos in the supermarket. You think he would have done that after a few more scenes with his family and a few more
Yeah.
disagreements and.
Well, actually, and one thing I also had to bring up before you go ahead with your rating, I did like, and I didn't really focus on it that much because past a certain point it doesn't really matter to the story. But when the little kid's dealing with his family, it's sort of like a almost an invasion of the body snatchers type situation. Because here's his family that you know and love, and all of a sudden they're acting like entirely different people. You open the refrigerator and all the food's thrown out, it's just the stuff. I mean, I know it's a silly movie, but this is a little sort of dark, ominous undertones to those scenes.
Hmm. I I was tossing up between a 5 and a 6. I, I guess I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and give it a 6. But yeah, it's at least it's got some cheesy 80s gruesome type deaths to really make it stand out at least in certain moments of the movie.
It also has a really cool poster. So
Yeah,